Has Dr. Joel helped make your life a little happier and healthier? Consider supporting the show for as little as $1 a month so we can continue to bring you the content you love. Just go to patreon.com/JoelWade. That's patreon.com/JoelWade. $1 a month. It's all we ask.
You are now listening to the Mastering Happiness podcast with Dr. Joel Wade.
Our beliefs create the filters and the context for how we view the world and how we approach different situations. They create continuity and meaning that we rely on to make decisions and set goals. But our beliefs aren't necessarily true, and if they're rotten beliefs, they can create mayhem in our lives. Let's have a look at our beliefs and how we can change them, if we want to. I'm Joel Wade, and welcome to my podcast. Benjamin Franklin, perhaps the most beloved of America's founders, reflected a belief about problems that historian H.W. Brands, in his book Benjamin Franklin, the First American, suggests may have partially inspired the characteristic American attitude of optimism, a problem-solving spirit that might be expressed something like, "Oh cool, here's a problem. Let's find a way to solve it." Armed with this belief, along with a considerably brilliant mind, Franklin investigated and defined some of the basic principles of electricity, invented the lightning rod which saved innumerable homes from fire, created the first library, the first fire department, some cool swimming paddles, the Franklin stove, and helped create the founding of America, among other things. The belief that there are solutions to be found within any problem is not universal. It's the foundation of what Martin Seligman would call optimism, and its antithesis of pessimism reflects what turns out to be a more primitive belief that when bad things happen, the best course is to hunker down and hope the trouble passes. Seligman originally thought this kind of helplessness was learned, and his experiments with what he called learned helplessness were a breakthrough in understanding how depression can be formed and healed. It turns out that it's not helplessness, but resourcefulness that's learned, something I'll go into more deeply in a future podcast. This learned resourcefulness hinges on a belief that something can be done in the face of trouble. The opposite belief is that nothing can be done in the face of trouble. If you're faced with trouble, which belief do you think would serve you better? I'd take the something can be done one myself in a heartbeat. One reason that people who are more optimistic in this sense tend to also be more successful is that they're actively looking for solutions, whereas someone with the more pessimistic belief would tend to give up on the search much more easily, or they may never even begin a search for a solution in the first place. So our belief here can set up a self-fulfilling prophecy, or, in the words of Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. What if you tend toward the more pessimistic belief, and you'd like to change it? Sometimes we can have an epiphany, or an experience that fundamentally shifts our perspective so completely that a whole deep belief also shifts like a tectonic plate. This kind of move can be exciting or tragic, and the resulting transformation, like an earthquake, can be pretty disruptive, even when it's in a very positive direction. In any case, it can be hard to arrange this kind of massive change on purpose, so it's not a great strategy for intentional personal growth. More often, we change our beliefs over time by deliberately bringing conscious awareness to them and questioning the old belief while opening to a new, more effective one. In the case of turning pessimism toward optimism, it can help to find a specific example in real life that you can identify, explore, and dispute, and then continue to identify, explore, and dispute more specific examples. Over time, the more general belief will shift as the evidence and experience of better outcomes start to pile up. For example, let's say that you and your mate are having an argument, and you're feeling disheartened, as though there's no good way through this. It might be hard to do this in the moment, but at some point, if you can bring yourself to explore your belief about the conflicts between you and your mate, You might find a belief that goes something like this. We're always arguing. My mate never understands me. I just can't express myself ever in a way that seems to work. Think of the consequence of that belief. It might be something like, I feel awful. I feel hurt and angry. I feel afraid of the conflict. I have a sense of despair over how our relationship is going. So this belief will likely leave you feeling in pain and at a loss for what to do. Maybe kind of helpless and stuck. Not a very helpful belief to have if you want to solve the problem. Now that you're looking at the belief and how it affects you, and you've decided you want to change it, it's time to dispute that belief. Maybe something like this. Wait a minute. I love my mate, and my mate loves me. We're having an argument, which is to be expected in any relationship from time to time. Actually, John Gottman has shown that even in the happiest marriages, 69% of conflicts never get resolved. So we're not unusual in that regard, even for a very happy couple. The truth is, we're not always arguing. If I added it up, we probably argue a small fraction of the time we've been together. My mate actually understands me quite well most of the time, and we generally treat each other with kindness and respect. But right now we have a misunderstanding. If it were true that my mate never understands me, or that I never can express myself effectively, we'd never have come to know and love each other. So that's all baloney. Right now we're having a misunderstanding, period. At some point, probably very soon, we'll understand each other again. Maybe there's a way I can help to bring that about. Can you feel the shift in emotion with this? From helplessness and despair, it's likely now more a sense of hope, because now we've shifted the belief from one that leads to helplessness to one that leads to problem solving. Once you can find a shift in belief that allows you to search for a solution rather than feel stuck in helplessness, everything changes. And then you can get to work on overcoming the challenge. When you seek to change your overall belief from helplessness or pessimism toward problem solving and hope, keep looking for the different specific, tangible places you can apply this. Over time, the new belief will become your usual habit, and that will create a positive feedback that will encourage a more positive, effective stance toward your life challenges in general. It's also important to pay attention to the consequences of your beliefs if you want to change them. It's one thing to want to shift toward more optimism because you heard it in a podcast that it's good for you. But if you can watch yourself and notice how your own pessimistic thinking keeps you stuck, but that the more optimistic times when you expect that there's a solution to be found, you actually end up finding a solution, being more successful, and feeling better, the awareness of those two different consequences can really drive home the motivation to change the more pessimistic belief whenever you find it. Let's look at some other examples of beliefs that are worth challenging. One of these I included in the previous example, the idea that conflict is bad and shouldn't exist. When I was a young graduate student in psychology, it used to be a common goal of couples therapy to resolve conflicts. That was based on the belief that conflict means trouble. But Gottman's research turned that belief on its head. If 69% of conflicts with happy couples never get resolved, then the issue that causes trouble in relationships can't be conflict in itself. Instead, the most important thing turns out to be how we treat each other, given that there will always be some conflict. This is a much different way of looking at things. Conflict is a fact of life between any two people with different internal experiences, namely, any two people who exist anywhere. Our conflicts let us know our differences, where one of us ends and the other begins, and they actually create the foundation for the deep exploration of each other's worlds that long-term, intimate, romantic love makes possible. Without conflict, there can be no curiosity, no understanding, no love. So this shift in belief leads us toward a foundation of treating each other with respect, kindness, and curiosity first. That's what allows us to live with conflict, resolve what we can, and flourish as a couple. Let's look at another common rotten belief, that success is based primarily on inborn talent. Carol Dweck, author of the book Mindset, has shown that rather than being genetically determined, much about our personalities and behavior is profoundly influenced by our beliefs about ourselves and the world. Specifically, when we have what Dweck calls a fixed trait mindset, the belief that our success or failure is based on an inborn set of traits, talents, and abilities, that belief leads us to avoid challenges, give up easily, and confine ourselves to familiar territory where we know we'll do well enough. We do this because if we're tested and we don't do well, there's no place to go but down. All we've done is establish that we can't do that particular thing. What's more, if we're already pretty good at something, testing it risks that we might find out that our previous success was just a matter of luck. In other words, the belief that our success or failure is based on a fixed trait leads to a fragile sense of competence and can be a pretty miserable place to be. In contrast, when we have what Dweck calls a growth mindset, the belief that our success or failure is based on the effort, practice, and learning that we bring to a situation. That belief leads us to feel more excited and interested in challenges, to persevere in the face of setbacks or failures, and to seek out new opportunities for learning and growth. We do this because since our success is based on whatever we bring to a situation, our curiosity, our perseverance, and our willingness to learn, then challenges become opportunities to grow and hone our abilities. Setbacks become feedback, helping us to learn. And rather than being a matter of luck, we develop a sense of having earned our expertise. Our sense of competence, therefore, is resilient, dynamic, and a much more enjoyable place to be. If you see areas in your life where you have more of a fixed trait belief about your abilities, the most important thing to do is to identify that and remind yourself that this belief is just a mistake. And then orient yourself toward what you need to do, learn, practice, in order to improve this particular set of skills. Over time, if you can keep catching this and reorienting yourself away from a fixed trait belief and toward what you need to do in order to learn and grow and improve, that fixed trait mindset will fade and the growth mindset will flourish. Our beliefs color everything. Do you believe in free will? If you do, you're likely to be more trustworthy. In research done by Kathleen Voss and Jonathan Schooler, they found that those who didn't believe they had much free will were actually more likely to cheat or steal compared to those who had a stronger sense of their own free will. One of the ways we can get leverage over our rotten beliefs is called reframing. This is where you deliberately change the perspective from which you view a problem or belief, giving you leverage to shift it to something more effective. For example, while chronic or overwhelming anxiety can be debilitating, we can also have the belief that any feelings of anxiety are bad and should be stopped. This can actually create more anxiety, helping us to become hypervigilant of any sign of anxiety, which can create an escalation, a feedback loop, intensifying even a small feeling into something overwhelming. But what if anxiety is just part of a healthy range of human emotion? What's more, what if anxiety is also a similar feeling to excitement? What if anxiety is part of our system preparing ourselves for doing something that's meaningful? To this day, I always feel anxious before playing a water polo game because I'm getting revved up and playing well matters to me. If I try to relax and eliminate that anxiety, I'll also be removing the energy and enthusiasm I need to play my best. In fact, I'm pretty sure that everything I've done in life that I'm most proud of has included some amount of anxiety, because I was going into the unknown to some degree, and what I was doing mattered to me. Think about your own experience with anxiety. Is it always bad, Or has it sometimes accompanied a sense of excitement and preparation as well? Sometimes it can help to replace the word afraid or anxious with the word excited. The next time you're going to do something that matters to you, where you feel some anxiety, give this a try. Instead of saying to yourself, I'm feeling anxious about giving this presentation, try saying, I'm feeling excited about giving this presentation. Not to deny any genuine anxiety, but to reframe it, to allow yourself to see what else is there. Okay, here's another one. Let's say you're fairly conscious of taking care of your physical health. You don't smoke, you eat well, you exercise, but you also tend to indulge in a lot of negative thinking, anger, and criticism of others, believing that that's just fine. It just feels like who you are, and you can't imagine changing that. But what if you knew that such thinking actually creates the kind of inflammation and stress in your body that's very bad for your physical health? As bad or worse, in fact, than smoking. I wonder if knowing that might give you some more motivation to change that criticism, anger, and negative thinking. Next time you feel like indulging this anger and criticism, imagine you're lighting up a cigarette or eating a whole bag of greasy pork rinds and see what that does to the belief. These are just a few of the more common beliefs worth questioning. What are some of the beliefs that hold you back or create trouble in your life? Spend some time over the next couple of weeks paying attention to your own beliefs. Don't try and change anything right away. First, just observe yourself in your natural habitat, like one of those nature shows. And notice what some of your beliefs are. Some of them will be great, others not so great. See if you can identify one or two beliefs that seem to get in your way. Then, use some of what we've talked about here today, questioning them, disputing them, paying attention to how they affect you, and reframing them. And see about moving them in a more positive direction. Remember, these beliefs are habits, so be patient and persistent, and pay attention to the benefits that come from the new belief, so it can become the new habit. And the new habit of belief can bring you more happiness and success over time. A Master's Course in Happiness is a monthly, in-depth program to help you actively, purposefully, and effectively live a happier, more fulfilling life. This course is designed to teach you the skills and principles that you need to bring the best you have to offer, inside and out. Over the course of 12 months, we'll explore what I've found are many of the fundamentals of living well. Through audio, video, and written material, you're supported to learn and practice specific actions each month that will strengthen you, inspire you, and enable you to lean into life more fully. These are skills and principles for self-mastery across all the circumstances and personalities I have ever worked with for nearly 4 decades, based on solid research and experience. And right now, exclusively for my listeners, you can experience the Master's Course in Happiness at a great discount. Use promo code MH1, promo in all capitals, to get this $467 course for only $295 today. Visit www.drjoelwade.com. That's drjoelwade.com now, and use promo code MH1promo to receive this amazing course for only $295. A Master's Course in Happiness is designed to give you the most powerful skills that I can offer in a course. It will give you the tools and knowledge to apply yourself fully to the mission of mastering yourself. That's www.drjoelwade.com, promo code MH1promo, all in capitals.